Morning, everyone.
Good morning, Rabbi.
We are learning Mishnah Beitza, Perek Gimel, Chapter 3, Mishnah, Mishnah 4. Let's start with a introduction. The Torah sanctified the Bechar, the firstborn male offspring of kosher domestic animals. Right? So a cow, the Bechar of a cow, of a goat, of sheep, they are sanctified. The Bechar is given as a gift to a Kohen. You have an animal, gave birth to a Bechar, you give it to a Kohen, who must then bring it to the Beis HaMikdash as an offering, as a carbon. And as they say here, the blood of this offering is applied to the Mizbeach, to the altar. Some of its fat are burnt on the Mizbeach, and the meat is given to the Kohen and his family to eat. Okay, so he brings it as a carbon, and the meat is eaten by the Kohen and his family. It is usher for the Kohen. It's forbidden for the Kohen to give it to a non-Kohen. You cannot invite a non-Kohen to eat from it. Like any offering, if the Bechar sustains a permanent blemish, it is rendered unfit to be offered as a sacrifice. Unlike other offerings, a blemished Bechar may be slaughtered and eaten anywhere without being redeemed. Typically, if you have a carbon and it gets a blemish, right, you can't just slaughter it and eat it. You have to redeem it. In the case of Bechar, if the Bechar develops a permanent blemish, then you can just slaughter it anywhere you want. Again, it belongs to the Kohen, but you can slaughter it anywhere he wants and give it to anybody he wants. However, it may not be slaughtered until it has been examined by an expert to determine whether the blemish is indeed permanent. That's the halacha. You know, which my understanding is that even if you know it's a permanent blemish, right? You raise these animals. You know yourself what's a permanent blemish. The Chachamim decreed you cannot shechta, you cannot slaughter it until someone who is deemed an expert in checking these things comes and does so. Okay. Now, the Mishnah says like this: Bechar shenaf alabar. You have a firstborn animal, and it fell into a pit. Now, the problem is this animal, it's blemished. We're talking about a Bechar, blemished Bechar, but it's before it was examined by the expert. Now it fell into a pit, and it's Yontif. Animals, right? The question now is, can this animal be removed from the pit or not? Is it considered muktzah? Is it not considered muktzah? What can you do here? Rabbi Yehuda says. Now again, you don't want it just to sit there over Yontif because it could die. So therefore, you want to figure out, is there anything you can do? Rabbi Yehuda says, Yered mumcha v'yira. So the mumcha, the expert's got to go down into the pit, and in the pit, he's got to look at the animal and examine it. Im yesh baimum, if it's got the blemish, the permanent blemish, he determines it's a permanent blemish. Ya'ala v'yishchait. You bring it up, and you can slaughter it. But if not, lo yishchait, then you can't. So now, the point here is that according to Rabbi Yehuda, you can go down and you can go ahead and you can check it. Now, the thing is like this. The first thing that we have to explain is that since the animal was already blemished before Yontif, the Kohen, meaning the one who wants this animal checked, anticipated being allowed to eat it on Yontif once it is examined by an expert. Therefore, the animal is not muktzah. Okay, so that's step number one. This animal is not going to be muktzah if it's determined that it has a permanent blemish, because already before Yontif, the Kohen knew it was blemished. He was anticipating that if it's determined that it's a permanent blemish, that he's going to eat it. And therefore, since that's called, the animal has been designated for slaughtering, for eating. Again, if it works out that way. Mm-hmm. However, if it first developed a blemish on Yontif, the animal is muktzah, since the Kohen had no reason for Yontif to expect it to become blemished and usable on Yontif. He's got this Bechar. Before Yontif, no blemish. All of a sudden on Yontif, he sees it's blemished. When Yontif started, in his mind, this has to be taken as a carbon. So he wasn't expecting to use it. So even though it develops a blemish on Yontif, it's not going to help you anymore to check it out, because when Yontif began, it was muktzah. He wasn't anticipating to use it. So therefore, the case here is where it developed a blemish before Yontif, and therefore, if it's determined to be a permanent blemish, the Kohen was anticipating to use it, and therefore it's not muktzah. Okay? Now, so the Mishna said that the Mimcha is going to go down and examine it. Now, until we know that the Bechar is permanently blemished and permitted for slaughter, it cannot be moved since it might be unblemished and therefore muktzah. Meaning, why does it have to go down? Bring it. 1 second. The expert has to go down. You can't move the animal out to check it, because in case the blemish is not permanent and you can't use this animal for shechita, you can't shecht it, it's muktzah. It would be muktzah. So therefore, even though it's a doubt, we're still going to say you can't move it. So therefore, the expert has to go down into the pit and check it out. Now, Rabbi Yehuda says, no problem, go check it out. We're going to see soon that the next opinion of the Mishnah says you can't check it. The issue here is that we know that a Bezdin cannot convene and make a decision on Yontif. Mm-hmm. Bezdin can't do that. Let me read how I explain it. Right. The question is so there, if a court ruling is not allowed to be done on Yontif. Okay, you can't do that on Yontif. A court cannot convene and make a decision on Yontif. So now the question is, when this expert goes down and checks out that blemish, is it like a court convening, make a decision? No, it's not a court, right? But is this like a official decision? Or is it like asking a shaila? Can you ask a shaila on Yontif? Can you ask a rabbi a question on Yontif? You want to determine, is it okay, is it not okay? Can you do that on Yontif? You certainly could. So according to Rabbi Yehuda, a expert going to check out the Bechar is no different than answering a question, is it kosher or not? Right? It's just a question, it's a halachic question. And therefore, there's no problem going and doing it. It is no different from asking a rabbi on Yontif whether a certain food is forbidden or permitted. His ruling does not change the status of that food. It merely reveals that its status has been all along. That's the way to understand. Rabbi Yehuda says, go ahead and let him check it on Yontif. Okay, now, the Mishnah said, if it has a blemish, then you bring it up and you shecht it. If it doesn't have a blemish, you can't shecht it. So the Bartanur brings down that from the Gemara that, this statement, and if it doesn't have a blemish, you can't shecht it, is pretty obvious. We know that. You don't need to say that. And therefore, the Gemara says what the Mishnah is including is the following case. The case is that it had a blemish. The expert didn't check it yet. Now, we say that the Kohen has in mind that if this is a permanent blemish, he's going to use it, and therefore it's not muktzah. Well, the expert went down, and he saw that blemish from yesterday is not a permanent blemish. But he saw a new one that is permanent. So now, this Kohen was anticipating using the animal if it's permanently blemished. Now, it's not the same blemish that he was thinking about, but it's a blemish that essentially should allow him to do it. The question is it muktzah because he didn't anticipate it? Well, maybe do we say, since there was a blemish there, he was anticipating the possibility that it's going to be, that there's a permanent blemish there, and he would use it if so. So maybe now it's not the same blemish. Maybe we can go ahead and say it's not muktzah. The Mishnah says no. If that blemish that was yesterday's blemish that he was anticipating based on that he should use it. If that's determined to be not permanent, that blemish is not what allows you to use it, then the fact that there's a new blemish isn't going to help you. His whole anticipation was based on that original blemish, and therefore, if that blemish doesn't help him, then the animal's muktzah. Reb Shimon says, Kol she'ein muma nikar mibayim. If the blemish is not recognizable from before Yontif, meaning if the expert did not determine that it was a permanent blemish before Yontif, it is not considered prepared. You cannot use it. Rabbi Shimon's point is, and I'll read it to you here from the bottom, Rabbi Shimon holds that since the sages decreed that a Bechar may not be slaughtered until it is officially permitted by an expert, permitting the Bechar changes its status, making it like an official court ruling. Therefore, forbidden on Yontif, even to prevent financial loss. So you're trying to go ahead and the whole reason trying to do this is because you don't want to possibly lose the animal. Nonetheless, according to Reb Shimon, being that he looks at it as changing the status of the animal because there was this decree upon it from the sages not to use it until it's examined by an expert. You're changing its status. That's like a court ruling, and that may not be done on Yontif. At the end of the day, whether you're following Reb Shimon's opinion or in a case where the expert determined that it's not a permanent blemish, you can feed the animal while it's in there.
That's my question.
You can feed the animal, it's in there. He may ever provide it with food to keep it alive in the pit. Also,
But you can't pull it out.
right. Also, if there is a non-Jew present, it is permitted to have him raise the bachar from the pit. There they allowed you to ask a non-Jew to do it to prevent the loss.
Mhm.
Have a wonderful day.
Thank you, Rabbi. How long?